Greetings, gang. All right, strange time for a video, but I figured I'd put this up because this is what I've been working on, and probably a lot of you are either already involved in doing this or getting ready to. And it's getting your seeds started for the 2024 garden season. Now, I get a lot of emails, a lot of questions and live streams. We had a bunch here the other night about what do I do this, what do I do that. And so I kind of wanted to go over a little bit. For some of you guys, this is old hat, no big deal. I'm not going to give you any stellar new ideas or whatever. Gardening's not that difficult if you just learn what to do and do it. Okay, so what I wanted to go over was some of the big mistakes that I've seen people do and that people have asked me, is this right? Okay, now, some of it's going to be my opinion. Understand that, okay? But I've been doing this for 25 freaking years. I think I've got a pretty good idea what's going on. So, let's start from the very basics. The container that you are going to be starting your seeds in, all right? Now, I'm not going to say don't go ahead and start them in solo cups or in 3-inch pots or anything like that. That's totally fine. The issue is they take up a lot of space. For most plants, if you're going to start seeds, I'm going to recommend that you have some sort of seed tray, okay, your little cells. Preferably, these are 1.5-inch cells, maybe 2-inch cells or whatever. There's 24 in a square or in a rectangle, okay. The reason why that you want to do it, not everything that you get is going to germinate. So if you take everything in a solo cup and put it in, you're going to be taking up a lot of real estate for your seed starting. Okay? And if that plant doesn't materialize, doesn't germinate, you get nothing out of it, that's a lot of wasted space. Very rarely are you going to get 100% germination. I don't care if they're brand new seeds from whatever seed company you get from. If you look on the envelopes, most of the time it'll tell you 90% germination, 96% germination. Okay, not 100%. Don't expect it. Okay, out of one of those trays, I pretty much figure I'm going to lose 1 to 2 cells. Okay, so that's it. The next thing that you want to look at is what your medium that you're growing them in is. And I know a lot of people will say, grow it in cocoa core or whatever. That costs a lot of money, okay? Yeah, sure. Will it work? Absolutely. But if you're going to do it in a little cell or do it in a cup or something like that, make your own seed starting mix. I'll link a video I did, I think it's a couple of years ago now, on how to make your own seed starting mix that will save you 95% of buying seed starting mix in the store. Now, I will also say this. You can, with quite a few different seeds, start them in a wet paper towel and a plastic bag. Now, you're not going to grow them in there, but if you want to see if you've got old seeds, test the germination for them, put them in a wet paper towel, put it in a plastic bag, put it in the refrigerator, and depending on the seed, okay, some of them need warmth, and I'll get to that in a second, is see which ones germinate. And then once you figure out which seeds actually germinated, then you can put them in the cells, and now you know that each one of your cells is going to grow. The downside of starting in cells, yes, you're going to have to transplant them into the solo cup later. But at least you're not wasting time waiting for something to germinate that's never going to. Okay. Number 3, growing seeds or starting your seeds at the wrong time. This is the biggest mistake that people make when they're growing seedlings. Okay. Everybody gets excited this time of year going, oh my God, I've got to plant everything. And you need to know what crops grow better in cooler weather, what crops grow better in hotter weather, and plant them accordingly. Now, you also need to know how long it's going to be from the time they sprout until the time you harvest, because that's going to also determine when you want to start them. Here it is, it's early March, and in my greenhouse sitting right next to me here, I've got a bunch of beets, and I'm going to get into that in a second too, okay? What you want to start, what you don't. And a boatload of peppers, and then my cabbage and my broccoli are outside hardening off. Now, most of you know that brassicas, your cabbages, your broccolis, your cauliflowers, your Brussels sprouts, those are cold weather crops, cooler weather crops. Those are ones that you're going to plant early in the spring, now for me, okay? And harvest them by, at the end, Memorial Day. And then there's some plants that you don't even put in the ground until Memorial Day. Okay. Why am I starting my peppers? Peppers are a summer plant. I'll be harvesting those August, September. Why am I starting them now? Peppers grow slowly. Okay, so I need 6 months from seed to harvest, so I get a full-size plant. I mean, I'll get pepper plants that are 4 feet high, 5 feet high, okay? And I will get good peppers. If you want good peppers, you need to give them a long time to grow. It's way too early for me to start things like tomatoes, cucumbers, or anything, because they'll overtake everything growing inside. They'll be more than ready. They'll start flowering before I can even get them in the garden. Don't want to do that. So for your growing zone, you need to know when to plant. Do not take Farmer's Almanac or any of these other gardening channels, whether it's YouTube or Burpee Seeds or whatever. Do not take those as gospel. You need to learn your planting. And that's trial and error. You guys know me, okay? I started by following Farmer's Almanac and realized that for my area, they were a month and a half off on cabbage, okay? Not anywhere close. I learned that, I moved it back, and I kept my own records, so now I know when to start them, when to plant them, and when I'm going to harvest them. Good. Okay. Next thing, what do you want to seed? You don't want to seed everything. And that, again, is not gospel. Okay. Certain things that you want to start in a greenhouse, start in a windowsill, start however, start on the patio, however you can do it, cold frame, whatever. Certain plants you certainly want to do that with. Peppers, tomatoes, cucumbers, squash, watermelon, etc., etc., etc. Those you absolutely want to start indoors because you need that long window. You will have really crappy luck trying to start tomatoes or peppers or eggplants or something like that direct seeding in the garden. You'll get some, don't get me wrong, but you will have a lot of bare spots in your garden. Other things like corn, for example. No, corn you want to direct sow, meaning you want to, right in the garden where it is, put it in the ground. Carrots, same thing. You want to direct sow that. Onions, you want to direct, well, okay, I take it back. I can't say onions because onion seed you need to start inside, but onion sets you need to start outside. So depending on how you're doing that. Okay. There's a little bit of controversy in this one because, as I mentioned earlier, I have my beets in my greenhouse here. And general rule of thumb says that you want to start your beets direct seeded. Beets are a little different because if you ever seen a beet seed, okay, what you're planting, that's actually a cluster of seeds. Okay, there's more than one in there. That's why you get like little bunches of beets. You'll get 2 or 3 out of a single plant. Beets are one of those, I can't speak for rutabagas, turnips, things like that. I don't grow them. Okay, so those you're going to have to look up. But at least for me, for beets, I have more success starting them indoors in the cells and then transplanting them in the garden when they are small. Okay, beets need to be transplanted when they're small. When you want to transplant something like that, it's when it's got its first true leaves. Now, true leaves, just so you know, easiest way, when it's got 4 leaves. The first 2 leaves, no, those are not true leaves. The first true leaves are your 3rd and 4th leaf that comes out. That's when you want to transplant those. Now, things like tomatoes, peppers, cabbage, that sort of stuff, you can let those go. Usually you want to transplant those when they've got 6 or 8 leaves. Okay, just give me. But if you're going to do beets, 4 small. Anything that's off the norms, 4. Okay, your first 2 true leaves. Temperature. Well, this is different. Okay, and I'll show you something here real quick. If we open this up, I'll do this so I can show you. Bear with me. Okay, so let me flip this over and we'll take a look. Okay, so here is my greenhouse. And if you see right here in front of me, see all the condensation on the top of those humidity domes? These are bell peppers right here. The reason there's condensation on there is because there's a heat mat underneath them. If you can look all the way down to the end, you will see the beets that do not have condensation on the top. Why? Because underneath them. And so what the difference is with that, peppers require about 70-degree temperatures to germinate. So they need to be warm. Okay? I've got a heater in my greenhouse that it's set at 70. But I want that bottom heat to warm the soil to get that seed to germinate. The beets don't need it. Not many vegetables do. Peppers absolutely do. You will have better luck with some than others. Tomatoes, eggplants, anything in the nightshade family, you'll have better luck with heat. But then other plants like my cabbage, my broccolis and stuff like that, the brassicas, no, they like a cooler temperature. So look to see what your germination temperature is. Usually it'll find it on the seed packet, but if not, that's easily found online. Look to see what the what the temperature needs to be for the seeds to germinate. Okay? That's crucial. Otherwise, you're just going to be dead cells. Nothing's ever going to come up. And you're going to go, why aren't my seeds coming up? Why aren't my seeds coming up? Well, if it's not warm enough, or if it's too warm for them, they won't germinate. Find those temperatures. Finally, this is the biggest one. Seedlings are not set it and forget it. I mean, in the summer, you can get away with a couple of days of your soil going dry and the plant's not having any water or whatever it is. The roots have gone out. They're going to look for it. Seedlings do not have that root structure. You need to keep that soil moist. That means checking every day to make sure that your soil is moist. Not wet, not sopping, okay, but moist. Bottom watering is the best. That's why, again, I like the seed cells, because you've got a tray underneath. And where everybody thinks that tray is to catch water going down, no, actually what it's for is that's where you put the water and let the soil wick it up. It will also get those roots to grow down deeper because they're trying to go after that water, rather than if the water's up on the top, then the roots aren't going to get as deep and you're not going to have as strong of a plant. Okay. So things to look at, something like that. Make sure you are keeping the plants wet. Very important. But when you're starting your seeds, Do the research. It's not hard. I mean, it's not just putting a seed in the ground, but we're not talking rocket science here. And considering everything that's going on in the world right now, growing something is going to be critically important. Challenge yourself to grow something different this year, something that you've never grown before, something that's a good survival food. We talked on the live stream the other day about spinach. Okay, spinach not the easiest thing to grow, but maybe plant a spinach and see if you can grow some of it. Learn. Okay, everybody loves to grow the tomatoes, the peppers, the cucumbers. Those are very common things to grow, but there ain't a whole lot of substance that you're going to get growing those things. You need to learn how to grow the potatoes, the sweet potatoes, the corn, the beans, that sort of stuff, because those are going to be more of the carbohydrates, more of the proteins, more of the starches that you're going to need in any sort of survival situation. Nobody said you had to go out and grow 100 square feet of potatoes. Plant a bucket of them. Plant 1 5-gallon bucket of them. Put one potato in there. Plant a 5-gallon bucket. You'll get about 3 pounds of potatoes. Okay, good. You learned how it worked. That's it. You learned what to do. The most important thing we can do when it comes to feeding ourselves is educate ourselves. You learn how to fish. You learn how to hunt. You learn how to trap. The simplest one is to learn how to garden. Do I want to eat vegetables? Right now, I can't. Okay. Do I want to eat only vegetables for the rest of my life? No. But I'll tell you what, I'd sure as hell rather eat vegetables than eat nothing. Pinball